Diary of Helen Kimball Whitney. In the year of our Lord 1884, Wednesday, November 12th, 1884. Horace wished to be fixed in his chair last evening, at an early hour, and went to sleep. Spent as good a night as usual, was ready for breakfast when I came out of my room this morning. I had a good night's sleep after drinking hop tea these 2 evenings. Woke early after a wakeful spell, dropped to sleep, and was thus late to rise. I felt very slim for most of the forenoon, but got better, and have done more work than usual, have cleaned up my room, where Juliet is sewing, and the sitting room where Horace is. Brother Joseph Kingsbury and Kirkman came this morning to see Horace. In a few moments brothers James Jack and David Mackenzie came, then brothers W.M.B. Dougal and George F. Gibbs came in. All were the old and dear friends and clerks from the tithing offices where Horace has worked with them for so many years. I asked Horace if he would not like them to anoint and pray for him. He said yes. Brother Jack anointed him and Joseph Kingsbury prayed, all laying on hands with him. He enjoyed their coming and seemed better for it. D. Mackenzie, when parting with Horace, shook hands and kissed him, and his eyes were full of tears when he came and shook my hand. Numbers of callers have been in to see him. My niece Marion Sprague, M. Wells with her Belle, and sister Woodruff. Our Helen also came with the dear baby. M. brought me 15 CDS cash received for my books. Horace became very tired and nervous, it being too much and the little children's noise with the rest. Belle has sent him grapes, oranges, etc., and today a bottle of claret. Lily, Jenny, and Florence have gone to the theater, and I'm sitting with Horace. I took off his shoes and socks and found his left ankles had blistered in 2 places and had burst. His feet are the same. Near his toes we rubbed some oil and laudanum on and raped them with soft rags and dressed his feet. He laid and slept this afternoon, longer than at any one time since his last relapse, and is now trying to do hard work to breathe. Thursday, 13th. Horace is better today. Jen took my place at 11:30 o'clock and stayed with him till morning. I sent to see how Heber is. Learned that he's about the same, very low. Joshua K. Whitney returned this evening from Logan. Friday, 14th. I stayed with H. last night. He was very nervous in the forepart. I gave him some fetty, rested better for it, but seems worse today. Is very nervous. I bathed his feet and ankles and pricked the blisters, as Dr. Richards directed, who I called to see this forenoon. He said he'd been expecting to hear of his legs breaking out, could do nothing more than he had already done. Said we must not put anything on them. I came home tired, completely out going there and to co-op. Brother and sister Frank came to CH this forenoon. Brother Spence and James Cushing called to CH, who talked to them so much that his nerves were in an awful plight after they left. I gave him some asafoetida again. Laura Pack came in the evening expecting to go to Logan Temple with her mother and Mary, where the children are to be adopted to their parents by sealing. Dolph stays here tonight with his father. Jen and Flawed are gone to the theater. Saturday, 15. Arose a little after 7. Finding Horace sitting by the fire in the corner, talking to Dolph, quite smart for him. After breakfast he took the lounge and slept quite a nap. Dr. Murphy and James Jack, also Bro Gleason, called to see him while he was asleep. Doctor told me how to prick Horace's legs to let the water out, to put needles in a cork, as Dr. Richards said, and go all over the parts bloated. This I did today, and the water oozed out in every place, which relieved him greatly. I did not understand Dr. Richards, as he did not explain, as Dr. Murphy did. H. is terribly nervous and excitable. I hate to leave him. Florence stays with him tonight, as I must save myself to take care of him days. Sunday, 16th. H. is the lowest that he's been at all. This morn, I found his legs had run till the cloth and his pants were wet through, and I took them off, bathed his limbs, and raped them in dry flannel 4 or 5 times. I've changed the cloths, and bathed his feet twice in warm water, and rubbed them, also his hands, they being cold. He has felt chilled and shivered, a new symptom, which alarmed me particularly, his hands being cold and one forefinger numb. I rubbed and held them in mine to get them warm. Phoebe and Vi Kimball called to see him, and a number of others. Phoebe proposed sending to get one of Heber's morphine pills, also a quinine pill. We hated to, but consented as he was so nervous and his leg so painful. Jen stays with him tonight. Monday 17th. Mary and I were up late with H. He had a bad night. I have changed the cloths on his legs and feet, they being wet, and cold washed him and fed him his breakfast and washed out the flannels before taking my breakfast, it being 10 o'clock and I felt very little hungry. H. has been stupefied nearly all day by the opium. Jack called this morning and I asked what he thought of my sending for Dr. Anderson. He said he'd send for him if I wished him to. He did so, and the doctor talked encouraging if Horace could stand being again physicked. But if he remained as he is, his life was very short. He said the medicine that he was taking we were to continue, and gave him a small dose of jalap and crematator daily, as he could stand it. The cod liver oil could be stopped, as Horace hates it so, and take malt instead. Told me to rub his legs with oil and laudanum, and for the sores, he prescribed a salve which I've attended to. His legs have run a good deal. Bros Frink and Gleason have called and were the first to rouse him. He recognized them. Afterwards Jemia Cushing called, and he did not know him till just before he left. Tuesday 18th. H. seems better though he spent a miserable night. I stayed with him till nearly midnight when I called Jen and she took my place. Have had sick headache all day, in consequence of 2 nights being up late. Horace has been almost entirely relieved of his breathing trouble heart affection since the water began running from his legs. BR's Angus and John Q. Cannon called on H. We had a pleasant chat upon matters and things. Wednesday 19th. Horace has spent a dreadful night. Joshua stayed with him and never laid down till 5 o'clock in the morning. H's leg was paining him, so I was called to attend to it in the morning. Cloth saturated, also the carpet. I attended to his leg and replaced dry flannels, etc. Gave him his physic before eating his breakfast. This I've done each morning before eating mine. I've felt little able to do so sickening a task before taking a cup of coffee, or anything in my stomach. Brother Jack called to CH. He was asked to send some good coal as the last was fine and poor quality. I also asked him to bring us $500 in cash when he came again. Horace seems better today. Thursday 20th, Josh and Dolph stayed with H, and he had the best night's sleep he's had for a number of nights. His leg looks frightful, more sores breaking out and a black spot on his shin. The water running constantly has made the flesh some softer. I felt somewhat alarmed at the black spot, but found it only on the surface. When pricking the skin, blood ran out, and the DR, who we sent for again, said it was nothing serious. He placed an instrument under his right arm to find the extent of his fever. Said he had more vitality than he'd given him credit for. Was more encouraged this morning than at first. I told him I'd given him nearly a teaspoonful of jalap, etc., and they had moved him twice this forenoon. He ate better today and asked for bread and milk at night, which he seemed to enjoy. Brother Jack called, brought PCDS and stamps by Mary's request, and instead of $5 brought 10, which shows the spirit that possesses him. He thought we might want it, he said. Friday 21st, I was called early to help Josh and Dolph to set him on his chair. H. had a passage, and he ate a good breakfast for him. A dish of oatmeal, a teacup of beef tea full of bread, and cup of coffee. After that he refused to eat. Dolph went for the DR, as I felt that he was too weak to take any physic today. Doctor sent word to take it and to get the best whiskey and keep him up with milk punch. I've done the latter, but refused to give physic as his bowels had had another move. His left foot had been terrible all night and is growing worse, but the other was nearly free from pain. I dictated a letter to Mary that morning, telling that his symptoms were better and thinking he might possibly get better and live, though he had spent a dreadful night and looked awfully haggard and pale. But as soon as I'd undone his sore leg, I gave up all hope. It was mortified, and every sore place had turned black. I told Dolph he'd better send a PC. The same evening, he wrote one but failed to mail it to his mother. Horace's suffering was so great, I sent Dolph for the DR to prepare something for him to allay the pain. I had Flawed get a little bread and milk which her father ate from her hand as well as he had previously done. Dolph says Dr. Anderson admitted to him that the black spots were bad symptoms, but still he wished him to continue taking the punch, a wine glass full of whiskey to a half pint of milk and 1 egg. But that with the other 2 medicines to be taken each hour was terrible, as he loathed the punch more and more. I said to him that I wished I was able to sit with him all night. He replied, "I wish he was able to stay with me a night or 2. I am worn out and unless I rest a little at night." I told him I should not be able to be with him days, unless I slept and rested at night. This he said he knew, and hoped I'd be able to sleep. I undid and rubbed down his leg and foot, although he hated to have me work so hard for him. I done it every little while as it seemed to soothe and comfort it. Josh spoke of applying wet cloths to his foot, which I told him was my greatest remedy. As soon as I applied it, he felt relieved, so I continued to wring it out of cold water every time it got warm. He was terribly nervous, so I told Jenny to go on giving him the morphine till he was quiet, and she gave it twice after that. I requested her to call me if there was any change for the worse. At 12:30, Dolph came and told her to go to bed in the little bedroom, and she did so after some hesitation. Dolph, being very sleepy, drowsed off while holding his pa's hand. Then Jen happened to go out and asked him to take some milk punch. He took it and she went to bed. Dolph called her after daybreak, thought his pa had taken too much morphine. Jen came for me being frightened. I told them he was dying, it was not morphine. His eyes were open and a film over both. Dolph went for the doctor who was sick, but told him to give a tablespoonful of coffee. I told Dolph I should do no such thing, to disturb him in his last moments. I took his hand and sat by him till I had to go and take nourishment, leaving Flo Di to hold his hand. We sent to notify Orson, who was on his way here. He wished me to assist him in writing his pa's obituary. I had gone and taken Horace's hand again, but had to go into another room where Orson had to retire to be quiet. I placed his hand in Flood's. His pulse was gone. When I first saw him, he slept quietly, only occasionally a slight struggle and giving a grasp at my hand. He breathed his last at 11 o'clock. His poor leg that I'd wrapped in wet cloth had burst open and the cloth saturated with bloody water. While I was holding his hand, Dr. Anderson, the daughter, called to see him in her father's place. I showed her H's left foot, which was black all over and swollen, and the film over his eyes. She saw, which was proof enough that it was not morphine. Horace asked Jen in the night to take off the wet cloth and build a good fire, as he was cold, another proof that death had come to his relief, and still they did not know it. If I had only been notified, I should have got up and watched him the rest of the night. But I knew nothing of it, though I was wakeful most of the night, sleeping only catnaps when at all. I felt much sicker that morning than I had before, and my head swimming. Crowds of friends called in hoping to see him, but Joseph Taylor, sexton, had him placed in a freezer to remain till Monday morning. Sunday 23rd. Jack and Arnold have been very kind and arranged matters pertaining to HS clothes, carriages, and taking all these responsibilities from off my shoulders. I feel very feeble. Many friends have called and offered assistance and condolence. Mary has come. Feels terribly to think she went away. But she went in a good cause. Samira Wood came up from Springville. Juliet came also to make Jen a dress. Monday 24th. I felt very sick in the morning, having slept but little. Forgot to mention President Taylor calling yesterday with Brother Angus Cannon. He apologized for not doing so before, had intended to for a number of days. Bid me to keep up good heart, etc., etc. I asked James Jack yesterday for an order for Mary and myself to get groceries, etc. Deck went with Florence, purchased me a cloak, shoes, and other articles, also coats for Mary's little boy. He went after the order to cover them. There has been nothing left undone that love and friendship could administer. The remaining members of the old theatrical club and the fellow clerks of Horace were pallbearers, carrying him to the 18th Ward Chapel where services were held. A great many people had to go away, could not get in. The music and all was most comforting and sublime. This the morning after Horace's death, I felt for the first time that he had really departed, having nothing to do but sit down to breakfast. The thought that there was nothing else for me to do, that every morning it had been my first care to wait upon him, wash his face and hands, and prepare him some breakfast of late, had been till 10 o'clock before I could take my own. And now there was nothing for me to do. I had to leave the table and go out to give free vent to my feelings. Orson and Zena came down in the evening. Asked me what we expected to do for a livelihood. I told him I knew not, but trusted that the Lord would still provide in some way. He said he was to become city treasurer and would do all he could for us. I told him I did not want him to, but for him to save his means and build him a home. But if they still wished to board with us, they could come. Now Pa was gone. He said they'd have to board somewhere. I told him they could take the east parlor and bedroom, which was agreed upon. Bud and wife, his mother, Elle and Deck, had been in previously, expecting to see Orson, but did not stay long as he was not here. Juliet came this morning and helped us prepare for the funeral. Very kind in her. Samira has helped us too. She gave me 4 skeins of red stocking yarn. She went home today. Tuesday 25th, I was taken last night with deathly spells, feel very sick in consequence. We sent Dolph to get some meat at tea off. For dinner. Not finding bro Joseph Kingsbury came home without any. We had none, so I put on my things. Sister Samira also. I went to see if I could get any, put on my new coat to go onto the co-op to exchange it for a larger one. I got a check from clerk of $2 on meat market and sent it home by Mary's Faye. I exchanged my coat for one better suited to me, being prettier still, and for $25 the other was $30. It tired me out to wear it. We went into X off. To see M. While there I had an awful bad spell. They were frightened. M held campfire to my nose. As soon as I could I told her I never used anything. She was frightened. She said I looked so white. I had hard work to get home. Samira returned to Springville in the afternoon. Helen came up today, was taken with a chill ague in her left breast. And I wouldn't let her go home, worked over her till 11 o'clock before I could leave her and Babe. Wednesday 26th. I left Helen with George and slept in the little bedroom, had only a tolerable night. Helen, I found better, thank the Lord. I've no appetite and feel very badly, though I've had but 2 faint spells through the day. Felt too sick to sit up all day. My cough is very bad and wearing upon me. Thursday 27th, Thanksgiving Day. Zine and Orson furnished turkey and other eatables and dined with us. Helen is all right today. George gone hunting. I called on Heber, who is not so well, having been too smart yesterday, has been better for 2 days back. I hardly felt able to walk there, but knew the out was necessary, as my spirits are down. A sad day this, to me. My heart is like lead and my body sick, but, of course, will pass off in time. Florence has gone to take dinner at Dinwiddie's with Henry's mother and family. Orson and Zine to Brother Wells, to a family gathering. Jenny's gone out for a walk. Helen, Lily and myself left alone with baby. George has just returned. Friday 28th. I feel better today, though I've had a number of faint spells, but do not affect one so severely as they did. Orson and family came to breakfast and took dinner here. Sister Frank and Zine's sister Maxfield also, which served to pass the time always less lonely. Helen is here still and George came to dinner. She went home this afternoon. Orson came in the evening with tickets to James A. McKnight's lecture on Bonaparte's captivity. Urged me to go and shake off my gloom. Saturday 29th, Lily, Jenny and myself attended McKnight's lecture. It was upon the United States, etc. Quite interesting. 2 of the tickets were complimentary from Mac and O. Gave me mine. Lily stayed with me last night, built me a fire this morning, and I took my bath. Went out and found it lonely, only Lil and Jen to sit down to breakfast with. We wished O and Z would come down, and did not wish in vain. They came, though late. We have had family prayers, as we've been accustomed to whenever O took breakfast here. I went a coop today, got 7 yards black cloth for myself, called it X off. M gave me $1 received for my books at Granger. Went into tea off. Met Joseph Kingsbury, spoke to him about our condition and about getting some carpenter work done on my house, etc. Got some meat at the market and came home. Orson and family ate dinner here. He and Bud met here to look over their pa's papers, found the deed to mine and Mary's places and other interesting things. I've had more deathly spells today than any previous day. Feel sad and sick from the same, and my mind is troubled over Flaude's leaving school after the great effort that I made to get her and Lucy started. Bud says he went and had their names taken off the roll. He was not aware that I sent Florence to school and expected to pay the bill. Sunday 30th, beautiful day, but sad and sick do I feel. Went to afternoon meeting with Mary and her mother and Dolph. While eating dinner after 4 o'clock, we discovered the old mill built by my father on fire. Everything was excitement, and the street filled with people. We understood it to be full of flour, burned up water being so scarce that the firemen worked for a time to little advantage. John and Josh Whitney came in the evening after all had become quiet. I was in a sad way. Also, Lily faint spells came on me faster and more severe in the afternoon and evening. I asked Jen to sing. She did so, which soothed my heart aching. John sang some of the hymns sung by his mother, also a song or two of the olden time. All of it did me good. I forgot. Sister Zena Young called in the early part of the eve and sat a while. Jen went with her to see Bro Heber found him worse. Phoebe said he was invariably worse every Sunday. Monday, November 1st. Feel no better. Death has not let go its grip on my feeble frame, and my trials it seems are not to be made lighter, but heavier. I am weighed down to the very earth still. The Lord is my friend. And as I'm nearing the end of my earthly life I should not repine, for there is sweet rest in heaven awaiting me, and there I shall enjoy my home sweet home with naught to molest or make afraid. Tuesday 2nd. I tried last eve to write to Bro. Abraham wrote half a sheet and went to bed. Sleep, balmy sleep, forsook me. A wakeful night ensued till near morning, when I drowsed into troubled slumber. When I awoke this morn, my head was aching to burst and my heart heavy with sorrow. I prayed all night for wisdom and a willing heart to yield obedience to whatever was required at my hand to do what's best. But my feelings are unchanged, and I feel that the Lord does not require me to sacrifice what He has bestowed for my comfort during the few days that I shall sojourn here to finish my last testament. I have had to give up and lay down for a while, and my head feels better for it. Have done a little knitting. Had a call from Sister Howard in the afternoon, also from Sister Egan, and her husband's daughter, who was named for me. I feel very feeble in body. Wednesday, 3D. I had a tolerable night's sleep, had 2 or 3 wakeful spells, have kept my room most all day. How I prize it, and how could I do without it? The only resting place left me to make life endurable while I remain this is the first day that I've been free from those deathly sensations. I have done quite a lot of knitting this evening, have tended prayers, and now must retire. Thursday 4th. Had a call this morning from Brother Charlie Oliphant, Brigham Young's nephew. This is a lovely day after a night of wind and dust. Have spent a pleasant time with Sister Howe at her home this afternoon. Sister Rees and Ms. Kimball were there. Came home at 9 o'clock, found the dining room full of young folks listening to Jen reading Tom Sawyer, and Orson and Zena sitting in the front room where they have settled. Friday 5th. Last night I retired to bed, but not to sleep. Hours passed before I could settle myself, and then my slumbers were broken. Felt sick this morning to pay for it. Have hard work to eat anything. The skies are cloudy and threatening somewhat. Storms must come to water next year's crop. Florence is sick today in my bed. Sister Taylor, counselor to Sister Horn, called to see me. Saturday 6th. Cloudy. Dan Davis called and brought $1.75 for books sold at Bountiful by Sister Sessions. Brought back 22. I'm used to trying to clean my room. Flawed took the broom from me and finished sweeping, though she is still feeling badly. Lucy W. Kimball called this afternoon. I invited her to come and stop with me all night. When convenient, said she would soon. My heart is sad and heavy, though I struggle to shake it off. Sunday 7th. I slept but little last night. Spent it in prayer for grace and strength to bear, and forbear, and to rise triumphant above my temptations, and that which would mar my peace, if possible, and sicken me of life. Sister Lucy came near night to stop all night. Had a pleasant visit. She said my sad countenance haunted her all night, and she feared that I would sink under my feelings if I didn't try to shake them off. Troubles never come single. I'm not only bereaved, but sicken my peace, disturbed by the ill feeling and spirit that's manifested towards me by one towards whom I've shown nothing but kindness. I suppose it's because I did not give up my only quiet room and resting place where I wish to do a little more work with my pen, as well as to rest my worn-out body and brain. I hope for the privilege of returning the compliment by doing good, heaping coals of fire upon her head before I take my exit from this stage, which is my worst wish, and may heaven grant it. Monday 8th. I'm feeling better. This is a lovely day, though cold. Juliet came to make my dress for nothing, but I shall pay her, for she needs it to provide for her children. Orson brought an invitation from E.B. Wells for me to attend a social gathering of sisters at her house this evening. I got ready and went at twilight, was the first one there. Tuesday 9th. I was late home last night, had a very pleasant visit and meeting. Everyone spoke, all were women but B.P. Atwood, who spoke and dismissed with prayer. I felt very tired and sleepy and hardly able to walk home, was wishing for some way of conveyance, but started afoot with Sisters Hyde and King when coming up Main Street. Saw Brother Farringston with his coach, as if waiting for someone, bowed and passed on. In a moment after, he came up and asked if I'd ride home. I accepted the invitation with a grateful heart, after asking if he was going home, and he said, yes. I did not feel that I could add to the already big bell run-up when H was alive. He asked who these ladies were when I told him, said he wished I'd asked them to ride. I would like to. I told him but didn't feel at liberty. It seemed curious to get in alone, I told him, where I'd rode with Horace so many times, and it brought many things back. I was fearful of being too late this morning and hurriedly dressed and ate a little, and was off a few minutes after 9 o'clock. Met the carriage coming for me with M. Wells in it, though she did not go with us. She handed me $3 in greenbacks received from Sister Robinson of Colville. For my books also done, she did up a bundle of them for me to take with me. They were all sold, brought back $4.50 in cash, found $2.75 CTS at home, sent by Sister Freeze, for books that she had sold for me. Had a call this evening from 3 of WMH. Kimball's daughters, Minnie, Solney, and June. This has been quite a profitable day for me. I heard, through Emmeline Wells, that Dr. Norton was married to Brother Benson of St. George. When will wonders cease? I forgot to mention an old due bill that Josh W. found in his father's papers, due A.K. Whitney $17, 16 CTS on settlement of all account up to date Nauvoo, March 11th, 1843, Taylor and Woodruff. Then, Brother Taylor was editor of Times and Seasons, and Horace one of the printers. Wednesday 10th. Another lovely day, had a good night's sleep, feel better for it, though my cough is troublesome and my body enfeebled. Had to lay down since writing the above, feeling prostrated, was better for it, so that I've done some work sewing and knitting in the afternoon. Talked with my Florence about sitting up so much nights, and how it was injuring her health, and how she'd look back with sorrow and regret after I was gone, that she had not heeded my counsel and reproofs, etc. After a little she came to my room and put her arms around my neck, weeping. She'd thought over the matter and concluded to try and obey me and retire early at night, and take care of her health, as I told her I had very little to tie me to life, sick and sorrowful and oppressed in other ways, till I could hardly bear up under it. Then to have my children careless and disobedient grieved me, as they could little realize till they had children to pay them back. My heart was melted with gratitude to my Father for his kindness in hearing my prayer. Oh, that my supplications may continue to ascend up into his ears, in behalf of my loved ones whom he has placed in my charge, that not one of them may be lost. Thursday 11th. Felt feeble and sorrowful this morning, better afternoon. Finished a pair of stockings and knit a little mitten for Fayette. Told Racy, whom I called to try it on, that they were for a little boy who had no pa. He wanted me to give them to him, but when I said, again, that they were for a poor little boy, etc., he said, give them to Fay, he hasn't got any pa. I intend knitting him some too, but want them both to be surprised on Christmas Day. This has been a very cold day. I received a PC from Sister Robinson at Colville, full of sympathy, having learned of the death of my husband, and informing me of the money sent to Sister Guckron by letter, for me, saying that she had not sold my books, but thinking I would need the money, sent it me. Very thoughtful and kind in her. A friend in need is a friend indeed. My father has promised that I shall never want, and I never expect to. My Orson sent to ask me to come and eat some oysters for supper. I accepted and ate hearty, plus it's done me good. My cough is terrible this evening. Zena sent Racy with some lozengers for me to take. Friday 12th. My cough troublesome in the night has made my body sore with straining appetite delicate. Built a fire in parlor this morning and pasted paper over the cracks between the upper and lower sashes to keep out the cold. Have done some knitting and mended Lily's old dress, wrote a PC. To Sister Robinson, assuring her that her kindness would never be forgotten, etc. Dolph came up today and asked me for his pa's hat. I let him have it, and then bethought me of his knife and gloves which he had asked for and received. It hurt my feelings when I learned, through his mother, that he only wanted this one to wear every day to save his own, when his pa's hat is almost a new one and a fine one too. Saturday 13th. I drank hop tea last eve to make me sleep, but it did not operate till morning. I was sleeping nicely till late when M. Piper came to exchange $5 in gold for silver small change. I've written 2 letters today. Feel like my head was a fountain of tears tonight, as I sat reflecting over the past and present, the change that has come to me within the last 3 weeks. I'm having a rest intermingled with trials that have come unbidden to my door. I must now prepare things to retire, as it's 10 o'clock. Sunday 14th. Rested good after I got to sleep, arose and made my fire, took my bath, and went to breakfast. Ground is covered with snow. Winter has at last set in, and the flakes still falling. I have read President G.Q. Cannon's excellent discourse, delivered in Provo, Sunday, November 20th. 1884. Also read considerable more in News and Exponent, my eyes tired out. In the evening, Mary Ellen Kimball called in. Also Tessie K. called to see us, said her pa was very bad, M.E., and I had an interesting talk. In speaking of the Book of Mormon, I said I had wondered and inquired where Father's old Book of Mormon was and couldn't find out. She informed me that Father gave it to Sister Laura Pittin, and she gave it to Sarah Noon before she died, and before Sarah died she gave the book to Mary Ellen, who said she would let me take it to read, as I told her I could not read the new edition anymore, because of the print being so fine. Orson gave me $18.50 CTS towards paying for Lily's shoes. I gave him 2 $5 gold pieces found in his pa's purse. This makes $100 that he left, part of which is my cow money that he sold and promised to get me another with. But it will go to pay his debts. If any is left, it will be dead between Mary and me. Monday 15th. Feel tolerably well today. Racy was left with me and slept with me all night. This morning he said he wished I lived with them. I said, don't I? He said, no, you don't live in there. You live in the other room and here. I asked him what he'd like for a Christmas present. He opened his eyes wide and said, a little dead doll in a coffin. I told him I didn't think he could get one unless it was made of dough. Queer child received 25 CTS in stamps sent by Louis Wells, received from a woman in Clover Valley, Lincoln Company, Nevada, who requested to have my last pamphlet sent her. Have finished the mittens, commenced for Faye and began races. Helen sent some cloth for me to cut out pair of sakes for baby, done up 4 packages of papers and sent to relatives and Gentiles. Orson advanced $20. Today toward next month's board. Tuesday 16th. My Helen's baby came up and spent the day, left babe with me afternoon to go with the girls to buy Christmas things. It cried bitterly before she returned. I've done a hard day's work tending baby, mending Lil's dress, and knitting, besides another task done in the morning, looking over things that pertain to Horace and putting things to rights. George and M. Piper were up here, and their baby. Rainy weather instead of snow, rather disagreeable, and Lily is down in body and mind. Came in the evening to get me to pray for her. I called the girls to prayers and then administered to Lily, using consecrated oil. My own head is aching from overwork and little sleep. Received a letter of condolence from my cousin Libby Walling, dated Victor, December 8th. Wednesday 17th. My head is aching, slept poorly. Orson informed me that he stopped the DT News today as he thought we could not stand the expense. $10 a year. I felt as though I'd be losing another dear friend. I told him, and there were but few comforts left me. He said I could continue to take it if I felt disposed. I returned to my room and bethought me of my books, went and asked if he didn't think Penrose would take them for pay. He said he would ask him, thought likely he would. I felt grateful that I had published another book to assist myself with. To the Lord be all the praise. I asked Dolph to get one of the children to go over to the off, where there were, most likely, letters for us. He did so, and I received one from Bro Soul dated December 6th. It was filled with interesting items and words of comfort, as he'd heard the sad news of Horace's death. He was then on a mission with Apostles B. Young and Heber J. Grant, traveling in Sonora, Mexico. The place they were in is Hermosillo. They were going to carry the gospel to the Evlamonite and to find a place of safety for those who are being persecuted and imprisoned for obeying God's command to enter into the holy order of matrimony. He is wrapped up in this great and glorious work which the Lord is hastening. Every sign goes to prove this fact. Thursday 18th, sat up too late trying to knit till I felt sleepy, couldn't sleep till nearly midnight, woke this morning wild with nervous headache, couldn't rise till I took some toast and coffee, got up as Juliet had come to finish my dress, went to bed again, pain grew worse. Orson came in my room at noon, found me distracted with my head, offered to administer to me. I told him I'd be glad to have him. He did so, anointing my head with oil. I am now able to sit up and write, thank the Lord. Orson told me he had been to Bro. Penrose and he would be pleased to take pay for news in my books, but proposed a cheaper way, would like me to write for the paper occasionally, as I had sometimes written for Exponent, in defense of this work, or polygamy, and the news should go on as usual. I would be pleased to pay for it in that way, I told Orson, if I could get back my strength of body and mind to be capable of it. I feel still more that the Lord has remembered his handmaiden in the days of her affliction, and that his promises will not fail, that my last days should be the best. My treasures are laid up in heaven, where, I've been told, that I should be enthroned in the presence of God, and also that here I should be honored of God and by man. And no power should stay the blessings pronounced upon my head by my dear father in my patriarchal blessing, and at various times. But oh, how weak and unworthy I feel, and dependent upon his arm to lead me and to sustain me in the midst of this dark world of sorrow and disappointment. Friday 19th, Lily came and made my fire this morning. I laid awake so much that I feel very poorly, not able to sit up much. Orson is also very unwell from a cold. The wind has been blowing all night and is still. I felt better after noon. We done a little knitting. Juliet came to finish my dress. I gave her one of my late pamphlets, told her I would pay her for her work. Orson came to me a few minutes ago and inquired what she was doing here so much. I informed him that she offered to make me a dress for nothing, but I should not let her, as her needle was the only means she had of providing for herself and children. He said that was right, but there was need of our being economical, as there were so many debts to pay. He'd just learned that Pa had borrowed over $2 of Carl's portion to pay for the pipes to bring water to our doors last fall. He told me he wished I would go and talk with President Taylor. I told him I would be glad to do so as soon as I was able. He said he would commence New Year's and pay me $50 a month. If he does this, he will be doing well. I think we'll get along, but can't see exactly how. Feel gloomy, as there are other debts of his father's to be settled, and I fear that my calculations about Flawed going to school will be frustrated. Bud has given her notice that their dramatic club is to perform soon, and she can earn a little money on the stage. I gave her to understand that she must not go to rehearsals on the Lord's Day if the rest did, as I would not countenance it. Weather rainy and dreary. Flawed gone to rehearsal and Jen to choir practice. Saturday 20th, another long and almost wakeful night. Am sick for lack of sleep, head aching and nearly discouraged, my mind troubled on our present circumstances, and this has furnished food for reflection to keep me awake when taking my first nap. Poor Lily came to me crying and woke me, so I laid for hours thinking, have not suffered so for a great while, with an empty stomach. Distressed me all night. I felt better after taking dinner with cup of tea, have finished ours mittens and knitting total a pair, tired out and had to stop. Brother and sister Dowsonberry came tonight to Zena's. I told her she and Orson could take my room and let them have hers, and I could sleep upstairs with the girls. She disliked my leaving my bed, but I told her I could, and that was the best way. Oh, if I could find sleep, I would not care where I went. Lord, grant me this blessing, I pray. Sunday 21st. Stormy day. I rested more last night than the previous. How much I thought of last winter when I occupied the upstairs and Horace was there with me so much. Today has been spent looking over my desk of papers and letters, casting some to the flames. Orson spent some of the day in my parlor writing, read to me a sketch of Father Whitney's life, which he is writing for the Contributor. It's splendid. Joshua Whitney spent the evening here. Monday 22d. Everything is clothed in their snowy robes, beautiful to my eyes, but the weather is mild and the snow fast melting away. I feel better, and have done some work and reading. Had to pay $6.25 CTS in cash for a load of coal which came to me, by mistake of Dex telling the man to take it to HK Whitney, instead of to Mary Whitney's, as he should have done. I sent $2 by Flawed to buy a cup and saucer for OFWH, Christmas gift, and bibs for Zine and Helen's baby. I gave $1.50 CTS to Flawed to get her a pair of corsets. I hear that Heber is very low. He is being tapped today. Also hear that bro Abraham is not expected to live. Tuesday 23D. I heard that Heber was very low. Went to see him towards night. Found him better than reported. Though he is in an awful condition. Phoebe had not slept any the night previous. I took the news containing a sketch of Soul's letter to me. Heber was pleased to hear it. And also to see me. I had spent the day in knitting mittens for Christmas gifts for boys. Wednesday 24th. Heber was not tapped till today. He stood it better than anticipated. I've been working hard all day and all the rest. Brother WM called at the door to see me. Was on the way to Heber's to witness the operation. Thursday 25. The Merry Christmas is here, but Pa is not. After arising, the first salutation was little Racy, in his white night garment, bringing me a beautiful gift from his mother, white embroidered shawl, with rich lace edging, for my shoulders, all her own handiwork. Also a white silk handkerchief which serves as a healing balm. The next was a lovely table spread from Florence which she put on the table in the parlor where I received Helen and George and baby. They presented me with a beautiful lamp for the parlor table, and Jenny had knit a moss mat to put it on. Ella came with a very nice white silk handkerchief for me, the most presents given me for years. At one time Orson gave Mary Whitney $10 in gold as a Christmas gift. I gave him a beautiful coffee cup and saucer. China gave Z a linen handkerchief, baby bib, and stuff for white apron, all I could raise. Also gave my Helen apron and baby a bib. Gave Jen a set of silver-plated tablespoons and teaspoons, sugar spoon, and also knives and forks, which I bought of a Jew. I'm told that they're not good, but that is yet to be proven. I only paid $5.00 for them anyhow. I gave Lily 4 little teaspoons pure silver, what remains of 6 given me by my mother many years ago. The other 6 she gave to my niece, Helen Violet. To Flawed I gave $1.50 CTS to get her some corsets. I gave Racy his red mittens when he came to bring his mother's gifts, and he ran to her and said, "Aren't you glad now, Mama, you won't have to knit me any mittens?" She had told him that she'd have to do so at the same time she knew I was doing it. I gave Tuttle and Fathers, all were tickled, and ran home to show them I had nothing else to give but my second book on plural marriage. I gave one to Mary, one to her mother, one also to L and M, and one to George and one to Helen. Of the ones that I had bound, also prepared a couple to send Caroline Kimball and to Tom's wife. We had a turkey and other good things for dinner, but I had hard work to eat as I relished nothing till evening, felt hungry and ate bread and milk and piece of mince with a relish. We passed a pleasant but quiet Christmas. There were packages of candy sent from Coop to both houses, and chickens and beef from the tithing office, and the children received more presents than they ever did before. The widow and fatherless were remembered, and those who were sick and in indigent circumstances in the different wards were provided with the necessaries and comforts of life. I had a dream. I thought our enemies had gathered together and began firing upon the houses of the saints. Myself and family had sought refuge inside of beds laid on the floor. After the first attack was over, we arose and Mary Kimball came in to bid us goodbye. Tried to persuade me and children to go with her, over on the side of the ones who were fighting us and were bound to wipe us out, she said. But I replied, "No, Mary, you're doing the very thing that I dreamed you did years ago, leaving us and going on the enemy's side, and you are now fulfilling it." This was true. I dreamed the same thing 2 or 3 different times and felt sad over it. Mary is a good Hirtet woman, but has lost all the light that she ever had of the gospel and takes no daily paper but the dirty lying Tribune. Sunday 28th. I was taken very sick, awful griping towards Friday morning, having to get out of bed in the cold, being alone. I took a severe chill, and it lasted for hours. Then fever came on, and I was very sick all day and night, though the fever went off at night. But I was in pain from my head down to my feet. Jenny gave my feet a hot bath, and I took some pills which operated before morning. Flawed stayed with me and kept a fire. She could not sleep though till near morning. Orson nor Zena knew how I was till evening when learning they came in was so taken up with writing he never thought anything of my absence from the dinner table. He had inquired for me at breakfast and supposed, he said, that I was tired and had not got up. Z had been gone all day. Mary nor anyone down there knew that I was sick till they heard of it at eve, after which she came in to see me. I had foolishly eaten a piece of mince pie, that being the only thing to which I could lay my first attack yesterday. I was so I dressed, but spent a sick day, went into the dining room and sat there while mine was cleaned. The door was on the swing. So I took cold in my head and neck, and last night got up and put a wet cloth and flannel around it. Felt almost ready to give up, that I should not get well, as my cough has been incessant and altogether calculated to discourage me. E.B. Wells called at our gate and asked to see me, but being informed by Z that I was sick, sent word that I was invited to Sister S.M. Kimball's to a surprise Monday eve. Don't know as I'll dare to go out, wish I might though. I am much better, with the exception of coughing, than I expected to be last night. I had 2 peculiar dreams last night signifying trouble and sickness. I thought Mary Whitney and myself were living near each other, but not where we do now. She was down in the basement of her house and was confined with a babe. My house was up on a little eminence, east of hers. I was in great trouble of my own, as well as anxiety on her account. Water had began running into my house from some quarter, seemed like from the south, and I could see my carpets rising on the water, but in the midst of it I ran to see how Mary was getting along, found her around doing her work the second day after the birth of her babe, having to go up and down the stairs. And this troubled me, so I told her it would not do. She would surely be sick again, but she said there was no other way. I could do nothing, had to go back to see to my things that were being flooded. The second day my carpets and all was covered. People had gathered around looking on. I had come to the conclusion that I would have to leave my house, and was just in the act of pulling up the corners of my front room carpet, when Robert Burton, who was standing with his wife, Maria, looking on, stepped up to me and said I need not do it, explaining that they had discovered in some way that the water wouldn't rise any higher, and it would now go down. Toward morning I dreamed of being out to Bingham or some Ming place with quite a crowd of people. I was younger, and was short and fat, my hair long and more heavy than Florence's. My lower limbs were chubby, like M. Piper's. This I noticed as I was just rising in the morning, and was dressing my feet, and tried afterwards to fix my hair. Had some difficulty in getting the room cleared of men, who were coming and going, long enough to give me the chance to rise and dress. I had attracted some little attention, while there, from some of the male portion, rich miners, etc., and after making my toilet, one came up and placed several pieces of gold coin, of various sizes and shapes, in my hand, as a token of his admiration. At first I thought nothing, but in a second I thought differently, and turned around, facing him, and informed him in an indignant tone that I was a married woman, and my husband was in Salt Lake. The words were hardly out of my mouth, before the gold was out of my hand. He grasped it about like a cat would a mouse, and left me standing. Peculiar dream, but most of it has gone from me, the same as has the other dream too in one night. The first one I related to the dinner table. Orson thought it signified good in our financial matters, so do I, and that Robert Burton being active in bringing me the news shows the source from whence relief will come at the darkest hour. After undressing my feet last night, I discovered a sore place, nearly in the hollow of my left foot. I hid it as I got into bed, and it was very sore and painful. I expected to find a pimple or fester when looking at it in the morning, but not a sign of anything could I discover. Still, the spot is painful to the touch. What it can be I can't imagine. Monday 29th. Felt sick this morning, cough worse through the night, couldn't sleep, only by snatches. Late before I closed my eyes, was taken with awful distress in my right breast up into my throat, caused by wind. Got up and fixed soda in water, which gave relief. I had to go back to bed before eating breakfast. Head was bad, had tea brought and my coffee taken away, and everything but bread and a little sauce. My head felt relieved by the tea. It is now snowing. I've given up going to Sister Kimball's tonight. Near noon I was taken with slight chills, followed by fever. Made me feel very sick all night, with this wearing cough being very discouraging. My Helen came up with baby through the snow to see me. Thought I must be worse, she said. Tuesday 30th. Have not got rid of headache yet, have been in bed much of the day. We were cheered with a good long letter from our Charlie this afternoon. He's now in St. David, where he expects to spend the winter. He thinks there are good prospects before him, and he'll be able to assist us. Some had not heard of his pa's death, but Dolph has received one written later, informing him that he'd had the sad news, and what a shock it was to him. I began feeling better toward evening. Wrote a PC. To Sister Snell of Spanish Fork, BP's wife, apologizing for keeping her album so long. Jen had written to Charlie before his letter came, and added more to it. I mailed 2 books of mine on plural marriage, and sent them today, to Caroline Kimball and to Tom's wife, as a New Year's token of remembrance. Last night, when taking my first nap, I had an awful struggle with a woman. There seemed to be a man nearby. She was trying to convince me that I could not get out from under her power, that I had given myself to the powers of darkness, and they now claimed me. I thought it something like witchcraft, and wondered in my mind, while the contest was going on between us, if I had done any such thing, and given them any claims upon me, but I never yielded an inch to her. I fought till I conquered, and the coast was cleared, when I thought, well, if I had given way to that doubt, and yielded to her instead of struggling on, she would have had me. The place seemed to be in a forest. This is another good omen for me. The Lord heard my prayer last night, and these dreams are to encourage and increase my faith, which is not all that I desire it to be, or I might be healed, I think. Wednesday 31st. Feel stronger today, though my lungs are sore from coughing. This is the last day in 1884. I commenced an article for the Deseret News in response to Brother Penrose's invitation.